Anime with dumb titles are my guilty pleasure. When I'm running low on new anime to watch, if I see something with a silly title and it looks like it has any chance of being good, I'll watch it. So today, in less than 30 seconds per show, I'm going to rank all the anime I've watched simply because I found their titles funny. The goddess Restarte summons a hero named Seiya to save a world, but he won't do anything until he feels he's prepared, and his idea of being prepared is complete overkill. The world building is really cool, the gods are plentiful and interesting, and while the leads' personalities can wear on you at times, overall they're still likable, and the bond they form is one of the strengths of the show. As far as silly fun anime go, you could do a lot worse, and the ending comes out of nowhere, but in a good way. We're gonna think about this for a second. This is gonna go into the C tier. God tells Rentaro he wasn't paying attention, therefore, Rentaro is going to have 100 true loves. We see that play out, and it's legitimately hilarious. Each girl is wildly different, but endearing in their own way. There are homages and inspirations from other franchises that make for some great gags, and there are some of the most unexpected twists I've ever seen in a rom-com, which is why the fact that this series has deeply compelling moments, tragedy, and love make this show all the better. There's really no doubt about this one. This is gonna go into the B tier. A high school girl named Sayu runs away from home, and after being rejected on a date, Yoshida, a man who works a desk job, takes her in. And look, I get it, that sounds creepy as hell, but it actually has a beautiful story to it about a kind man changing this girl's outlook on life and herself. Sayu is a deeply troubled girl with a rough home life and brutal past, and watching someone have her back is touching stuff. Yoshida needed someone in his life too, so it actually turns out to be a mutually beneficial relationship. I think the highs are high enough that we can put this into the B tier. I'm struggling between B and C, but we're gonna lean B. The devil Mao and his general Alciel leave their world for Earth and arrive without magic or any resources. So the devil starts working at McDonald's. Both of those guys, along with Emi, Chiho, and Urushihara, make a stacked cast of enjoyable characters. Watching the devil strive to work up the corporate ladder at a fast food restaurant really doesn't get old, and the absurd situations they find themselves in are just constant entertainment. Unfortunately, it drops off hard in season 2. Now we're gonna have to throw this in the C. I wanted to know what the hell this title meant. A school project leads to fake marriages, and Jiro's fake wife is Akari. She's the most popular girl in school, out of his league and crushing on someone else. The guy she's crushing on is fake married to Jiro's best friend Shiori. As time goes on and character relationships change, it creates an intriguing love square that gets you invested. Akari is a surprisingly well-developed character. Their relationships and emotions in this are given a great deal of care. The highs of this one outweigh the lows, so we're just gonna give this a solid B. Hibiki wants to start working out, so she joins a gym. From there, it's a weird combination of fan service and informational workout anime, where they spell out everything for you, then follow that up by constantly showing people wearing hardly any clothing. It's kind of like Dr. Stone if you took out the compelling story, lovable characters, and emotional stakes, and then replaced all that with over-explanations and fan service. There isn't anything notable in a good way about this, and it's not memorable. I don't hate this show, but it's hard to justify this as anything other than an F tier. One of the most underrated anime out there, and it's almost certainly held back by its title. Belle Cornell is an incredible lead, and the rest of the cast is loaded with great characters, and it does a great job balancing action, politics, and moral dilemmas. For a more in-depth look, just watch my video on it, link in the description. A tier, that's it. This is A tier. It's great. Watch it. Ryuto asks out his dream girl, the Gyaru, Runa. To his shock, she says yes. Things get wholesome as she brings him out of his shell, and he shows her she's more than a sex object, and that a real relationship comes with genuine love and appreciation. That's easier said than done, because Runa has a complex relationship with her sister Maria, who has complex feelings about Ryuto, and that leads to some predictably frustrating moments and misunderstandings that are only there to give this show some conflict. This is another classic definition of a C-tier anime. Maple joins a VR MMO and puts all her stats into defense because she doesn't want to get hurt. I'll give them credit, it does have some creativity in how defensive abilities can be used, a la Shield Hero, but after a certain point it's not creative and it just becomes lazy, overpowered stuff. There are no stakes to this show at all. The characters and the plot are entirely forgettable, and there really aren't any strengths worth mentioning. It's not awful, but it's wild to me this has gotten multiple seasons. This is a pretty clear D tier, no doubt. Leon goes from playing a rom-com game to getting thrown into it, and his addition changes the dynamics of how that game plays out. He becomes a constant meddling force, even though he tries not to be, which changes the life of the game's lead, Olivia, and chaos ensues. It has its ups and downs, with some surprisingly epic moments, and unsurprisingly generic ones. Overall, it kinda goes how you'd expect, but the way it gets there is not how you'd think. And there are some stakes that make you care about what you're seeing. I think this is a pretty clear case of a C for me. Gideon is banished from the hero's party and decides he's done adventuring. He's going to instead set up shop somewhere and relax. It starts off interesting with him chilling with his big titty bae, Rit, while his emotionless powerhouse sister Ruti is going on missions slaughtering monsters. But as time goes on, it gets really boring and things get resolved way too easily. The addition of Tisei helps, as she's an interesting character, but really the best thing about this show is Rit, and she simply isn't enough to keep you watching. I'm not a fan of this one. This is a pretty easy D tier. Hero gets talked into buying a terrible video game by ultra-annoying weirdo Riona. It's even worse than he could have ever imagined. Pretty much everything that can go wrong does, and the pain he suffers in-game translates to his real body, which is not good for him because all he does is get in trouble. I'll give it credit for being unpredictable, but it's not so much funny and absurd as it is mean. That leads to the tone being all over the place, and the characters are mostly unlikable or dumb. Despite that, it's remarkably forgettable. This is an F tier. Sorry, it is. Tsubasa goes to Hokkaido, where apparently every girl is adorable. We see him get teased constantly by Big Titty Minami, befriend gamer gal Akino, and go out with the star of the school, Reina. This show has a lot of heart and does bring in some real moments between Tsubasa and Minami. However, it has multiple bait and switches that kill interesting ideas. Tsubasa has major simp vibes, and things don't actually get that far in its one season. It's a little frustrating because while it's solid, it should have been better. This should have been a B tier at least, but unfortunately it's going in the C. An isekai where a man reincarnates as a slime and grows to be extremely OP. This is far less of an action and more about building up a civilization, the issues that come with that, and conflicts between races and nations. That makes it different from a lot of other isekai. For a show lacking in action, it's strong in characterization and keeps you interested week to week. It can be funny, dramatic, or epic. Rimuru is as fun of an OP lead as there is, and despite things moving at a slower pace, it's a really good time. I'm not as high on this show as most, so I'm not going to put it in the A tier, but this is clearly at least a B tier, so that's where it's going. That's all I've got for this tier list. Let me know what you thought, and let me know what silly named animes you would watch.